We're pleased to be joined now by Matthew Hansen of the Flatwater Free Press to talk about a northeast Nebraska town that is seeing remarkable growth and remarkable investment in its community. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Start a little bit. We're talking about Albion and the just remarkable investments that this town has seen, both in early child care facilities, ag facilities. What was it that drew you to Albion to spotlight them in this article?
It's just a great example of a small town success story, and one that is, driven by, in this case, philanthropy. Albion has become sort of known with rural development folks as a place that's really doing this right. And I mean, it started late 90s, early 2000s, and it's really accelerated in the last decade. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars in investment in the town, by people who live in the town, in a way that I think especially people from bigger cities don't realize can happen. But it's certainly been the case in Albion. They've changed their town.
When you look at, obviously you're a small town guy. I grew up in a town of about 900 people. I don't know for folks that are around the state realize just how unique Albion is in the types of decades-long, millions of dollars investments that it's seen in the community. From your experience around the state, just how unique is Albion compared to other towns of its size?
It's unique, but it's not singular, which is really exciting, right? I mean, this is a thing that other small towns can do through their small town community foundation, through sometimes it's countywide community foundation. Ord is actually a classic example of this. They kind of built their funding stream in a different way, but my hometown Red Cloud, which I'm contractually obligated to mention, has done a lot of stuff with this related to tourism. So there's different ways that small towns can do it, but I kind of see Albion as a blueprint. Especially for places that don't maybe have tourism or geography necessarily going for them, but they do have some, wealth in the community that can be, instead of transferred out of the community, can be kind of preserved to make the town itself a better place to live.
The remarkable thing to me too is that when you look at it and you look at where their community fund is currently sitting right now, you say, wow, they're in a great spot. And even they are saying, no way, we need to get a lot more. And I think it really underscores, how for the cities that haven't maybe put in the investment that an Albion or an Ord or a Red Cloud has, they can really get behind the eight ball pretty quickly. What were some of the challenges that the folks in Albion said they're still facing, and how might that reflect the types of challenges that you'll see other towns of this size have in future decades?
Yeah, the first thing that people in Albion mentioned as a challenge, and the first thing, we've actually had a different story about this because it's mentioned by every small town, is housing. I mean, that is a huge issue still in Albion. It's very expensive to build in smaller Nebraska towns, and it's really hard to find kind of suitable housing, especially if you're a professional who wants to come to work, who's being recruited to come to work at the place, like for example at the hospital there. So that's a huge challenge in Albion and almost everywhere in small town Nebraska. The other challenge is it's a fundraising challenge, but it's essentially the building of an endowment. It's something that, it's one thing to put up a building. It's quite another to make sure that building and 6 other things, are sort of preserved throughout their lifespans and adequately staffed and all that stuff. So that's what Albion residents, Albion leaders mentioned as their 2 challenges kind of moving forward. They want to move that endowment from around $7 million right now. They want to move it to $30 million. So that's a significant amount of money, but they're confident, which is really interesting, right? Yeah, I mean, what you see in these small town success stories, at least ones that I've written, is that confidence, which tends to come because they've had success in the past, is really important to the present and the future. You need some swagger, and you need to believe in the fact that you can kind of get to a better place. And they certainly have that in Albion, which is a good sign.
Absolutely. I want to give you a chance to talk about just how this fits into what you guys are doing at Flatwater Free Press as well. This is the type of story that you guys tell quite often. It's under the Why We Stay heading. What has the experience been like getting out and finding new ways to tell these stories of small town Nebraskans?
It's been incredible. I mean, we tend to go, Matt Wynn and I, the executive director, and I'm the editor of the Flatwater Free Press. We tend to try to take road trips, at least one a month, to a different Nebraska small town, hear the concerns, of citizens, what they see as their important stories there, or their important issues there. And that's, by the way, that's exactly how that housing story written by one of our reporters, Natalia Alamdari, came to pass, because every time we went to a small town, people were bringing up housing as an issue, as a concern. So yeah, I mean, small town stories, both heartwarming stories of success, and also stories of struggle and, issues related to small towns are one of our really important missions at the Flatwater Free Press. That's a kind of one lane of stories that we're working on. We're going to continue to work on. We just think it's really important that small town Nebraska get covered, get paid attention in a way that small town Nebraska or small towns aren't always paid attention to by journalism outlets that are headquartered in bigger places.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great article. You can read it at flatwaterfreepress.org. It's on the homepage there. We've also linked to it at our website as well. Find out more about the great efforts going on in Albion. Matthew Hansen, thank you so much for joining us.